NFL Week 7 is in the books. The Seahawks fall short in an overtime thriller. Our top dog game heats up, plus the NFL news and more in 20 seconds. Hello, fellow fanatics. Welcome to the Average Bros Fantasy Show, sponsored by Football Darts and Fantasy Sports Alliance. First, we would like to thank our broadcast sponsors, Football Darts. Football Darts is a dart game that it combines the skill of traditional darts with the strategies of American football. This innovative dart game is played on a uniquely designed multiple target dartboard. Unlike traditional British darts, American football darts is a game that combines the skills of both darts and the strategies of football. It can be played in sports bars, at tailgate events, and as league tournaments, or as a leisure activity in the comfort of your own home. If you'd like to check out their officially licensed collegiate dartboards, go to footballdarts.com. And remember, if you guys like this show, please share it, subscribe to all of our social medias that you can find out on the bottom, as well as check out our new site. That is fsa-fr.com. On that site, you will find not only links to our show, but to the flagship show, the Fanatically Real broadcast with Brian and myself, as well as the Empty Wagon guys, all there under one roof now. Check us out. You have us here on Tuesdays, Brian and myself on Wednesdays, and then the Empty Wagon guys putting out a fantastic show twice a week on Saturday and Monday mornings early. Josh, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good so far. You know, Saints got to win this week, so can't really complain. That's all I need to say this week.
Yeah, that's a start. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for the Patriots. So, outside of your Saints winning, let's kick it off here. Who did you have as a Week 7 winner for yourself?
All right, so starting off week 7, I don't know if Damien's here, and it kills me to have to say this, but I'm going to say that my first winner is going to be Devonte Adams, 43.1 points, 13 receptions, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, completely blew it up. I know he wasn't the top receiver, but he was one of the top ones this week.
Yeah, I mean, him and Rodgers just have another type of connection. I know that we'll mention him a few times throughout the show. Similar connection that Lockett has had this year with Russell Wilson. I believe Russell Wilson and Lockett have the highest quarterback percentage or quarterback rating when targeting Lockett. Outside of that, I got to believe that Adams and Rodgers is up there.
I know they're up there, but I'm gonna stick with what you were saying. I'm gonna say that Wilson and Lockett are probably one of my higher picks. Unfortunately, I can't consider my own team to have that kind of duo because our starting receiver has missed most of the season and is going to continue to miss most of the season. So I'm going to stick with Wilson and Lockett.
Yeah, another quarterback that's started to heat up as far as starting to connect with his receivers as the season continues to go on. The reason why I have this jersey on today is Tom Brady, the mythical creature that he is, attesting time, putting up 45.36 points across FSA and MFL rankings or ratings, however what you prefer. Absolutely putting on a clinic. After people have started to count him out after a few bad weeks or down weeks, I should say, not producing the numbers that he normally does. Seemed almost MVP-ish in his performance this past week against the Raiders.
Yeah, I will admit that I was one of those doubters when Tom Brady shocked everybody, came out, said he wasn't gonna stay with New England come this season. and ended up signing in the South, unfortunately for me. But from what he's done so far, I mean, he has some off weeks, but uh, compared to what he was doing in New England last year, it's really a step up.
Yeah, as you see there, Jenna says, "Hey fellas, and go Raiders." Uh, I wish them any luck outside of those 2 weeks. Right, anytime they would play the Patriots or unfortunately against Tom Brady, not faring so well. So um, I would go Raiders any other week there. Um, and speaking of teams on losing sides of the ball, my loser or first loser, biggest loser of the week I have is Nick Foles. After stepping in and taking the starting job away from Mitch Trubisky, absolutely putting up a dud this week and killing my shot at winning in the redraft league, which I know that we'll talk about tomorrow on Wednesday at 8:30 with Brian on the Fanatically Real broadcast. But Foles only putting up 2.5 points this week in a unimpressive game.
Now, with Nick Foles putting up a big dud like that, do you think that the Bears, do you think they consider bringing Trubisky back and handing him the ball? Or I know I think some people were saying that they should even try to trade Trubisky before the deadline.
I mean, I think trading Trubisky is an option. They haven't really been sold in him and what they are trying to accomplish within that offense. So I don't think they go back to him. I think the plan all along was to always to switch to Foles. Eventually, once he learned that offense and got more comfortable with Nagy, so I don't think that's the route they're going to go. I mean, they are still sitting at what 5-2. They have
Yeah,
seen
so
more suspect.
they're not doing terrible.
Yeah,
They're not playing the best football they've ever played. But I mean Nick Foles, he has his moments and everything, but I'm still not sold on him being a true starter and being the go-to guy for a franchise. I'm still not sold yet.
yeah. I'm not sold on them either. I think that they're probably one of the worst top teams, if that makes sense, as far as rankings and ratings go within the NFL itself. I don't think that they should be as high or as good as their record shows. But I don't think it's any reason to switch off of Foles just yet if I'm the Bears.
Well, yeah, that's true. Don't. They're 5-2. I
Yeah.
mean that. So right there alone is just enough reason to not give up on them. Um, and somebody who I have, or I'm starting to give up on for being a go-to guy for me is going to be Chase Claypool. I know the past 2 weeks he had the monster game of over 40 points, and then last week kind of like pulled it back a little bit, had 17 points, but still enough to keep him in your lineup. This week, only putting up a third of a full point, only one reception for -2 yards. I mean, I guess it's kind of the thing that we've been talking about through the past couple weeks about rookies in the beginning. Nobody really knows anything about them. All they have to go off of is just college highlights and everything. Now they're starting to know him in the NFL level. They're starting to know what he can do when they're getting him the ball. So I guess it's just a case of Tennessee doing their homework.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that you've seen, time and time again, right? You saw it with Juju this past year and early on this year. Whenever you have somebody that's not expected to, who's not the number one, like Claypool wasn't the first big game that he had, and then even more so last week, then he's going to be more open more often than not because he's playing your second and third corners. He's being covered by a linebacker at which he could beat speed wise. So when you pair that with now that being dubbed their number one and Juju moving back towards a slot type role for them, now he's getting not only covered by the defense's number one corner, he's getting double covered over the top by a safety. So you're seeing those numbers and those targets drop a whole lot more to almost what you would expect a number one to see. But with that being said, they still do have the big ball effect there. He is their deeper threat of a receiver, so there's always going to be that chance that he could break off, a 40, a 50, a 60-yard play for a deep ball because we know that Big Ben's got the arm for it. Although this week, like you said, only putting up zero point 0.3 points, so definitely a loser as far as that goes. And then for myself, same type of situation you see with Darren Fells within the Texans. Put up a dud, wasn't even targeted, and I looked up I had to look it up because they gave out a reasoning to why their head coach, their interim coach, came out and said that that was actually game planned to not get him into the mix because the receivers were open so much that they didn't want to have have that fourth look, which would be their tight end, where they weren't using that check down because they thought their receivers were open enough, but ended up losing the game. Houston did, so maybe they should have got him involved. Who
That's
knows? But
that's exactly what I was about to say. I was about
yeah,
to come back and say, well, where did that get them? I mean, they still
yeah,
lost.
yeah. So Darren Fells, another loser for me, putting up 0 points.
All right, where do we go from here? You want me to go with do you want me to go with my next winner? Or you want the loser?
Yeah, give me another winner.
Another winner. So you had Tom Brady as one of your winners. I'm gonna go
Yeah,
to the complete opposite direction as far as age wise. And I'm gonna go with the young buck, Kyler Murray. I'm loving what he's doing, to be honest with you. You give him a valuable receiver and he goes to work. I mean, I'm not to take any credit away from Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald already earned his respect, but Kyler Murray, 45.6 points, the highest scoring quarterback, 360 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did have an interception, and then as we all know, Kyler Murray knows how to use his legs. 14 attempts for 67 yards and 1 touchdown. Um, I mean, they still lost, right? Or did they
who?
win?
Who?
The
Arizona?
Yeah, Arizona. They
Arizona
won, right?
won. Yeah, they
Okay,
won.
yeah. So it's good. I mean, it's good on his part. 4 total touchdowns, and to take down a top team like Seattle, especially in a division game, that it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, I mean, which is you know, as if you can see, looking at the us live here on Facebook and on YouTube, our title for tonight's show is now I forget off the top of my head, high stakes games and hot seats. So Seattle's right back at it this week, playing another tough division game at or hosting San Fran rather. So in another must-win game, um, Arizona already got it done as you mentioned. Um, Kyler Murray showing why they took him and traded away everything else that they had within that Arizona's offense to try to build around and make a scheme fit to him specifically. Uh, just an absolute week for himself and building off of uh, a career season for himself. So yeah, I don't believe he's had really a down week given his tenure in the league yet this season.
Yeah, throughout the whole season, he's been a reliable source, and just you know, it's his second year, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, just bouncing off of showing why he was deserved to be the or was the offensive rookie of the year.
yeah. And somebody that's going in the opposite direction for me and being less dependable is Zeke. Last week he only had 9 points, especially without having Dak in the lineup and going down. You would expect him to step up and be more of a run-heavy game. This week going backwards, only scoring 7.6 points across MFL and FSA respectively. Um, you know, what are your thoughts on him heading forward, especially with a rookie quarterback coming in? Does he have to step it up, or can he step it up? Because teams now know that they're obviously going to be more one-dimensional the longer that their quarterbacks are out and injured.
Honestly, when Dak went down and Andy Dalton stepped in, I thought that's when they were going to say, "Hey, we have a top 5 running back. We have a reliable backup in Tony Pollard. Like let's get the run game going." Every time I switch to the Dallas game, I see Tony Pollard in the game. I don't know if it's a coaching thing, if they're having problems behind the scenes, whatever it may be. But you're on your third string quarterback. Like I said, you have a top 5 running back. I feel like that's how you start winning games. That's how you get yourself. They're not out of the playoffs yet. Like that division is for the taking. And when you have an important game this weekend going up against the
Yep.
Eagles, that's pretty much winner takes the top position in the division as of right now. So, and
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think it all begins with a running game.
yeah, there's another high stakes game right there. That division's up for grabs. If Dallas wins that game, I believe that gives them the division over the Eagles because of the tie. I'm not 1,000% sure on how that works out there. Um, I don't know if my stat guy's around to double check that or not, but I believe if Dallas wins, they've got it. Who do you think takes that game heading into this week?
Heading into this week, like I said, for on Dallas's side, I have a soft spot for Dallas, and all I'm going to say is to win that game, you're on your third string quarterback. You know that your passing game is almost obsolete, so it all begins in the running game. But I am going to have to go with the Eagles. They're coming off another big division win in beating the Giants last week, and I think they keep the ball rolling this week. Um, they lost Deshaun Jackson. Yes, they get Jalen Reagor back this week, and just like I mentioned last week when picking up Boston Scott, he caught the game winner, and I think they keep him involved in their passing game and running game this week.
Yeah, speaking of running games that are starting to take off, is James Robinson within Jacksonville, 33.2 points, almost as if they've forgotten who Fournette was over there, and found a younger back that fills the same role, obviously for less money than what Fournette was looking for in the contract that they couldn't get done there. So, big congratulations to him. Finding a role early. I don't know if they'll be able to pay him when it comes time to that, just because of the situation that they've been in with um, down there. But another big week, and last week he had a pretty decent week. Um, but as things were rolling, you couldn't really know if you could depend on him moving forward because of being a younger player and because Jacksonville not being all too fundamentally sound all the way around. You don't know how their game is going to develop one way or the other as a team, but moving forward, if you do have James Robinson, to me, he is now a must start.
Yeah. And I know we're kind of down a stat guy tonight, so I was just kind of like doing the research. Yeah. So Philly is 2-4-1. Dallas is 2-5. So if Dallas was to win, they would jump ahead because of that tie. So they
Yeah,
would be 3-5, and then Philly would be 2-5-1.
right. Plus, they hold the tiebreaker in head to head anyway, because that would
I
be their
believe
first.
so.
That's their only matchup. So,
Mm-hmm. Um, and continuing down the line for winners, I'm gonna stick with the same position as you. I'm gonna go with Jamal Williams. 22.4 points, 77 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 receptions for 37 yards. I would say that's a pretty decent outlook there, production wise. And the main reason why I picked him is because who was it that we were? It was Madison. The one week we were
yeah,
talking about Madison having
just
to step
last
up.
week.
Yeah, basically when you have to step up, you're down your starting running back, you have to step up and you are expected to, do what the team needs. And that's exactly what Jamal Williams did. Aaron Jones, it came down to just about a game time decision where he wasn't going to
Yep.
play that week. And Jamal Williams, they handed him the ball and he said, "Look, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do what I'm paid to do." And he did.
Yeah, I mean that's really key, right? When you're talking about these, second and third string guys, whether it's at running back or receiver, or we all know the COVID woes this year. a lot more injuries than normal because of restricted camps or restricted practices because you're on the COVID list and a lot more guys going down. So just having that mentality of hey, I have to be a team player. I have to go out and do my job, regardless of the role. Whether Jones comes back and sticks to be the true number one, and Williams, steps back, or if it's a split role, you can't really think about that kind of thing. You just have to go out there and show out every week or every carry, really, when we're talking about the running back position. And that leads right into my final winner for the week is a guy that was he missed 2 weeks because he was hurt, had an early bye week, had to still come out and show things out, especially with having a dominant running back on the team and usually looking more one-dimensional in that way is A.J. Brown putting up 26.8 points, showing that he is, although lesser points than you would see across, the big boom guys, does hold a pretty decent average at 19.8 points, I believe. So definitely a high wide receiver one, fringe wide or high wide receiver two, fringe wide receiver one. As far as stat lines go, week in and week out, definitely a must start for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, I mean, with uh, I'm blanking here with Derrick Henry on that team, that's why, like I said, with Derrick Henry on there, that's why I would consider him more of a wide receiver too. I mean, yes, he's been putting up the stats in recent past couple weeks, but I still think that Tennessee is a run first team. And
Well, that's why I see him more in that second tier, only because it's not like
mhm.
he's battling another receiver. He's battling Derrick Henry. So is it, hey, are we going to hand the ball off 30 times and, let Derrick Henry literally put people through the ground, or are we going to get the ball in the air a little bit? So, but I believe that whichever way it goes, if and when he is stopped ever, if that happens, AJ Brown is a very young, very high output receiver that you can depend on to at least across any week have that margin of about 19 points average that you're going to expect to see out of him, but does have a high has a higher ceiling of that big boom that can be put out there if leaned on.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was about to say is I mean, yes, you're battling Derrick Henry, and like you said, they could choose to hand the ball off 30 times to him and let him do just do what he does and just run through people. But then there are the slight chances that teams pick up on that team's, game plan for that and they stop him, and that's really what opens the door for players like AJ Brown. They have a decent quarterback with Tannehill. Good for him finding uh, comfort on a team, and that's what opens the doors for them is when they stop Derrick Henry.
All right, who else did you have for us for this week?
All right, so I'm going to your division, going to your team. One of my losers this week is going to be Cam. I sympathize for him. I don't know what's going on there. Putting up negative 0.18 points, not even 100 yards, only 98 yards, and then 3 interceptions, which I know, like I said, I sympathize for him. I know one of them wasn't really his fault. Yes, the ball was thrown behind Edelman, but Edelman still tipped it up and it was intercepted. I as far as Cam, do you still think he's the option? Do you still think he's the answer?
I mean, they he missed almost all of last year because of the injuries. He's with a new system, so he's trying to figure out how things are going to work in New England. The receivers that he have are very subpar, to say the least. No true number one there. I mean, Edelman's their number one right now, and he's a slot guy. Always been a slot guy. Always will be. They have no real deep threat. It's supposed to be N'Keal Harry, but he hasn't shown to be much. They've got
Well,
Demir Bird.
if I
That
remember correctly, he's injured, isn't he?
again, yeah. Um,
Yeah,
Demir Bird has stepped in to be a little bit of the deep threat, but he hasn't done much. So I would say, as far as a fantasy standpoint goes, no, I would not look to Cam, especially in this upcoming matchup against Buffalo. Buffalo has a pretty decent defense, which is the only thing that's going to keep New England in this game is their defense. So in a pretty much must-win game to try to climb up the division ranks. But as far as team goes in the NFL standpoint, I think that you can't take it away from Cam just yet because of the things I had mentioned, everything else that he's trying to play, into the factor, and they're not really out of it just yet. So they don't need anything too drastic like switching over to Stidham just yet. But if he plays like he did last week again this week, it might come sooner than later.
Yeah, if it gets to the point where they're kind of just looking towards next year, playoffs are like just out of reach, which is very, very weird for anybody to say. The Patriots potentially missing the playoffs.
No.
That's weird for me to say, but if they start getting to that point where they're just looking towards next year, I think I would see Stidham making a appearance and probably staying for a couple weeks just to see how he plays.
And the Patriots have only missed the playoffs twice in 20 years. So just put that in perspective.
Exactly. It's a lot. Something that small is a lot to take in.
Yeah.
The second time in 20 years.
There's other teams that have only made the playoffs twice in 20 years. So that brings us up to the NFL news, brought to you by the Recast, the official music of the FSA. Josh, what do you got for us?
Okay, I have a shopping list here. What do I want to start with? I think we'll save the big and obvious news for last, or you want to start with the big and obvious news?
Go ahead. Let it rip.
Let it rip. All right. Oh yeah, let it rip because I'm the one that has to deal with that in a week. So we'll rip the Band-Aid off. We'll get it out of the way. We'll say what's been said all week around the league. Antonio Brown signs a 1-year deal with Tampa Bay. And I just want to dip into it a little bit. I want to pick your brain about it. Do you think he picks up where he left off in Pittsburgh? Do you think he goes on a little bit of a recession, kind of like Cam? What do you think?
I think he goes right back where he was. I mean, if you remember, he played one game in New England, and he did pretty well there too. So he already knows Brady. They've already worked out before. He's had private workouts with teams in the past, enough to get offers from other teams. Just he felt that the best place for him and most comfortable was with Brady and Arians in Tampa.
No.
You've got other receivers going down there, which I'm sure you'll bring up in a minute. So he's going to come in and step in as the number one almost immediately. So definitely a big gain for them within that injury riddled and star-studded offense. Which sounds weird to say that, hey, he's going to step in and be a one within that team. But I think he comes in and leads off right where he's at. As far as a fantasy perspective goes, I do just want to remind you that he is not eligible to return until week 9, although already signed. So he does miss week 8, finishing his suspension, is eligible to play week 9 against the New Orleans Saints and their terrible secondary.
Hey, we were secondary alone. So going back, I should have reworded the question there a little bit. Now, his performance, he's gonna show up. He's gonna be a number one when he steps on the field. Now, his problems with New England and the Raiders was his emotions. Do you think he can keep his emotions in check this time around? Now that he's had some time to, get on a little timeout and think about what he's done. Do you think he keeps it all together now?
Yeah, I mean, just like MJ says there, she took a chance on picking AB up, as did I. So I believe so. To answer the question again, I think he does. I mean, that takes a lot out of somebody for being out of the league, and that should check you a bit to know that they were that serious. To obviously only played one game last year, then missed the first 8 this year, to kind of say, hey, you're still in your prime. You could be the number one and was the number one when he left Pittsburgh in the league as far as receivers go. Up there with your Julios and Hopkins, and right in the mix of the conversation. Uh, I think he goes right back to it. Hopefully, he stays clean off the field. I think he can, but will he? We won't know until everything gets going.
All right, so I'm going to go into the next person. Took a little time off, had some time to do private workouts, not, coming back into the league as much as Antonio Brown. He's not going to step onto a team as a number one, but I believe it was just today. Baltimore signs Des Bryant to their practice squad. Do you think he eventually makes his way up into number one spot, maybe even the number two? What do you think?
I think that's more of a. I think it's a good idea on the Ravens' standpoint. Another guy that's been out and off of a team since actually being hurt on the Saints. Oh, I believe it was Achilles
Did even
that
play a
he
game.
tore.
He
Yeah, in the preseason, right?
no, he didn't even play a
Or
preseason game. It was like his first or second day of training. He tore his Achilles and they cut him.
yeah. So um, I think he comes back from that. I think that this is more of a, hey, let's make 1,000% sure he still has it. I believe, this is his second workout with them. He was there for almost a full week, so I
Mm-hmm.
think this is let's learn it up, because the practice squad does two things. It doesn't take a 53-man roster spot away, which you would have to either cut somebody or put somebody on the IR and bring him up. I guess they're waiting for that to see if they're really going to need him. But they do have to watch if he does do well and another team needs a receiver. If he is signed off their practice squad, they do get a comp pick, or are eligible, I believe, for a comp pick, depending
Mm-hmm.
on how much Dez plays on that team. So it's a smart move to put him there. Um, we'll have to see how well it works out for him if he does get on the field, though.
Yeah, I think just the difference between him and Antonio Brown, we just talked about it, is Dez was coming off an injury, and I know a lot of teams, they're a little hesitant on signing people coming off of major injuries like that. But
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh no. If you had
No, I
something
was
to
just
add
going to
on to
say
it,
that's what I was going to say. Is I think that's why it was a practice squad move. They didn't cut or
yeah.
move anybody down because of the injuries. I think that they need to make sure that, hey, we're not going to be getting rid of anybody for somebody that's still hurt or very much at risk of re-injuring himself.
Um, Not so much on redraft, but dynasty wise, I would say someone to keep your eye on as the season goes on. Going down the list of injuries that I have here, Chris Godwin, he fractured his finger, actually had surgery on it, so he's going to miss Monday night's game against the Giants. There, after that, there's no real timetable for him. D.D. Westbrook tore his I was going to say ALC. He tore his ACL, so he's out for the season. Kenyon Drake, he has a slight tear of a ligament in his ankle, so he's going to be missing a few weeks. Andy Dalton, he is on concussion protocol, so he is questionable for Sunday night against Philly. Chris Carson, midfoot sprain. He's going to be week to week. Virgil Green, I don't know if too many people know about him. He's a tight end for the Chargers. I believe their backup tight end. He has a lateral ankle sprain, so he's going to be out a few weeks. And actually, I'm going to save this one for the end because of how big it is. Joe Mixon, he has a foot injury. He's going to be week to week, and he could miss their game against Tennessee. So most likely will end up being a game time decision. I would keep an eye on him. Michael Thomas has a great, hurts to say it. You come back from injury, you hit a teammate, and then you get injured again. He has a
That's your
grade
luck.
one ham. Yeah, that is our luck. That's his curse for breaking a record. He has a grade 1 hamstring strain, and he could miss Sunday's game against Chicago. Like I said about Joe Mixon, it will most likely be a game time decision. So, with how big of a player he is, I would really keep an eye on that. And then finishing it off with the one of the other top names is going to be Odell Beckham tearing his ACL, and he is done for the season. Now,
just like Damien chimes in here and says Michael Thomas can't get out of his own way. I agree there, Damien. And if I'm the Saints, I would say to lean towards the caution side and look more for the playoffs, especially within that division that they're in. They're going to need every win they can get. They do play Tampa in 2 weeks, so possibly bring them back then if they can. Or you could always go out and get Traquan Smith. As Damien mentions, probably not the guy who I would target, but Chicago is suspect, so you never know what that offense is going to do against them.
They had their special teams guy catch a touchdown last week. What was it? Oh my God, Deontay Harris, is that his name?
I'm not sure. I didn't watch that.
He's a big special teams guy for us, and with Thomas and Sanders being out, I believe he stepped up. But we all know who the real big guy is that steps up in these situations. We already know
It's just Kamara.
It's just Kamara.
That's all you need.
The dude is he's earning he's earning every single dollar of that $75 million that he earned.
Damien says 4 playoff teams coming from the NFC West this year. So that's going to be Seattle, San Fran, Arizona, and the Rams. You think the Rams can get in there? You would have to think that all 4 would have to have 10 wins.
Well, the Rams technically are in third. San Fran is in the back technically because the 49ers have three losses. The Rams only have 2. And what helps the Rams is that the Rams are 3-0 as far as divisional games. So, yeah. I mean, with that extra wild card slot, I don't see it completely out of the equation. Just have to see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it will definitely be interesting with that extra playoff spot in there, but I don't think so, especially with the way that your guys' division is with the South.
Yeah, I was about to say, with the exception of the East, the NFC is very stacked. You got all of the West. You got Tampa Bay, New Orleans. You could kind of consider Carolina to be in there. They're 3-4 right now, but I don't know. And then you have Green Bay and Chicago.
Carolina should have CMC back in 2 weeks. He's
actually making a push to be back. This was actually on my notes too. He is making a push to be there Thursday night, but with it being a short week, they said it was a long shot. So it's a maybe. It's a big maybe.
I believe they took him off the IR and put him on the 21-day active list to where he has the intent to return. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, like I said,
it's coming soon.
Yeah, like I said, I saw it earlier, and pretty much literally the way they put it was a long shot for him to come back this week, especially with them being on a short week.
Yeah, who do they play this week?
Falcons. So it's actually a big game for them too.
It might be a game where they could activate him, but just not use him.
Either not use him, give him
the same
limited.
Thing that Tampa did the same thing with Fournette 2 weeks ago or a couple weeks ago when I started him. 0 points, no touches.
Well, even with McCaffrey coming off injury, and then they still have Mike Davis, and Mike Davis has proved to be a decent second running back, so they could even for the first couple weeks, implement both of them going back and forth,
which they probably will.
Mm-hmm. Where are we going to now? Sit and start?
Yeah, we're going to go to the odd man out next. Anybody that's watching here with us live on Facebook and on YouTube, please chime in and comment. Give us your guys that you would sit this week or start. You can drop in. We'll debate them either way between myself and my average brother, Josh. Uh, give us guys that you might look to add this week or you're thinking about adding a couple, if you need to fill in for a buy or anything like that, uh, go ahead and throw it out there. We will love to put your comments up on the screen and debate them as we go through here. Josh, why don't you kick it off? Who do you got?
All right, I'm kicking it off with sitting Matt Stafford. Indianapolis has one of the top-rated, if not the top-rated, passing defense, only allowing about 200 yards a game and only 19 points a game. So, on the other side of it, I'm going to say to start Wentz. There's not anything that I can say about Dallas's defense that hasn't already been said. They are, what is it? Yes, they're bad. Hold on, I need my notes here. Okay, they allow about 35 points a game, and what was it, like three, and the sixth most passing yards a game with 408. So if Carson Wentz was to have a week, it's going to be this week.
And leading right into that, Damien asks us, which is more plausible, the NFC West having 4 10-6 teams, or the NFC East having a team win a division at 6-10? I would say the NFC East having a team win the division at 6-10. They are all that bad. Now, that's not saying that the West teams are not that good, because they all are. I would say out of all of them, maybe the Rams falling a little bit short. I believe that the Niners are starting to come back together. I would expect them to start to get some players back, I believe, and maybe get that run game started with the plethora of plagued players that they've got. So, I mean, it's definitely possible. But I would say if I was a betting man and say if only one of them was going to happen, I would think that the 6-10 NFC East would happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. So you have a division where you're talking about one team getting in with 6-10 over a division where all four people make it in with one division winner and then three other teams taking the wild card spot. I'm gonna go with the
Well,
NFC
he's just saying
East.
he's not even saying that in that question. He's just saying they all have 10 wins.
Oh, they all have 10 wins. I thought he was
Yeah.
I thought he was talking about getting them making the playoffs. As yeah, I feel like it'd be more what are the
Plausible.
word? Yeah, that's what he said. Sorry, my vocabulary isn't that extensive. I'd say that it's more plausible for NFC East team to win the division with 6-10, rather than bet on four teams at least getting 10 wins.
Yes. Speaking of that division, being the West, my big start of the week is going to be DK Metcalf. Had a quiet week this past week, but that was mostly in part of Lockett absolutely destroying teams.
What are you talking about him having a quiet week? Did you see him track down Buda Baker?
Well, I mean, quiet as far as stat lines across fantasy. I mean, Buda got scared.
Oh my goodness.
He got scared. He had no idea where he came from.
He turned around and he was like within a yard of him. Like
I believe he had to. I think they said it was a 10-yard run.
Yeah,
like a catch up. He had a
that's
catch. That's
kind of like the play where I don't remember who it was, but they were on the Chargers and he was on a breakaway run, and then Tyreek Hill just chases him down, and he said that he saw on the screen that he was just catching up to him. That I'm sorry, but that's got to be so scary, especially if it's somebody on the other team.
And DK's not small. Like, that's a big dude not. Chasing you. That's that's scary right there.
I mean, you
But
saw the size comparison when he was running up behind him.
yeah, he looks like he should be on defense. He could play linebacker. Uh, I'm going to go out and say start DK this week. I think he comes back and has a higher bounce back week, and it's not going to be as lopsided targets and catches from him to Lockett. And then on the flip side of things, I'm going to say to sit Devontae Parker in a less favorable matchup, playing the Rams, still within that division, and having a rookie quarterback. As a reminder, Tua is starting this week, as they have said 2 weeks ago after bringing him in late in the fourth for Fitzmagic. I don't know how well that's going to pair up week one against a tougher team, or week one of them of Tua playing against a tougher team. So I don't think Parker's going to do as well as he has shown to do in the past. So that is it for me. And Damien says Metcalf needs to show OBJ how to tackle. I mean, Metcalf needs to show everybody how to tackle. I mean, let's be honest. Everyone offensively has been there in that position. The Patriots just last year or 2 years ago now. I saw signs of Gronk missing the tackle to let the Miami score and come back and win over on the sideline. So I believe everyone should be taking lessons from DK.
And yeah, that's embarrassing when you have to take lessons on how to tackle from an offensive player. I'm gonna go to my second sit, and I'm gonna say to sit. I don't know. I didn't know if I should start off with the sit or start. But I'm gonna say to sit Joshua Kelly. They're going up against Denver this week, and I know that they're playing in Denver. There might be a chance that it could snow, just like this past week against Kansas City. And yes, Kansas City did demolish them, but I feel it was more of a defensive game. Denver does have a shady pass defense, but they make up for it with their rushing defense, only allowing 109 yards a game, which is pretty much what they allowed for Kansas City. But at the same time, the rushing yards were broken up between multiple running backs. And then on the other side, I'm going to say to start my pickup for last week. I'm going to say to start Boston Scott. Like I said, Miles Sanders is still down. They're going up against Dallas, which is one of the worst team or the worst defenses in the league right now. And with, like I said, with Miles Sanders still down, they already said that Boston Scott is going to be the starter this week, and he can both be in. He can come out from the backfield and be involved in the passing game. Just like if anybody who watched Thursday night's game last week, he did catch the game winner against the Giants. So I see him having another explosive game, if not better than last week's game.
I mean, it's so sad to say when you see a game like what the Eagles played against the Giants and saying that they could have a better game playing Dallas at this point, but they, as you said, are atrocious defensively. And Damien says here, in Dynasty, would you trade Parker, Ruggs, and a first for Tyreek Hill?
So Devonte Parker, like you said, he has a rookie quarterback throwing to him. Henry Ruggs, I haven't really seen much of him. I actually dropped him in redraft for Antonio Brown. And Tyreek Hill, on the other hand, I mean, he was the only one to score the touchdown this past week, and obviously is the number one in Kansas City. And even if with him being number one, he still gets the looks that he deserves, and he makes the most out of it.
So what are you saying here? Yes, make the trade.
My only question mark is debating on if the first round pick is worth it, because I mean, I'm thinking here.
For me, it's
What
going to be a no,
I
regardless
was
of
about
the
to ask
person.
you I was
Yeah,
about to ask you what your thoughts were on it while I processed it.
yeah. For me, it's going to be a no, regardless. I think that Parker. The only reason why I'm sitting Parker this week is just to see what that chemistry is there. He's a low end flex anyway, just because of how deep receivers have been this year. Unless you're only starting, unless you're in a league where you could start up to five receivers and only have to play one running back, to where you can go a little bit deeper there. Um, that's the only reason why he's not up there this week for me. It's just to see how that chemistry goes. Ruggs has been battling injuries, but is the number one there, and I believe is going to do well for years to come. If we're speaking fan or dynasty wise here, the first, I'm gonna admit I'm not um, a huge fan or a college guy, so I don't know what all is out there to really relish over um, in this upcoming draft. But there's always up and coming guys that get cut or dropped or forgotten that are you could pick up off of waivers or get draft that was not on a team last year if fill retirement issues and age issues, stuff like that. So there's always a little bit of value there. But to me, that's way too heavy on that side for Hill, who has to contest all the other options that they have there, Kelsey and now the two running backs. To me, it's just too much to give up for one guy, especially Hill, who
And
I believe is starting to age up a bit, especially
at the
within
same
that
time,
offense.
it all depends on who you already have on your team. If you're like wide receiver stacked as it is, like, and you have other bigger names ahead of Devontae Parker and Ruggs.
Well, yeah, I would assume that whoever is trading away Parker and Ruggs is probably already pretty heavy there or confident in at least another two receivers that they have. So Parker and Ruggs are probably their 4 and 5 on their list anyway. But I
Hmm.
still think that's too much value, especially in the dynasty aspect where you're going to continue to see those guys next year on your team. So for me, that's too much.
Yeah, cause yeah, at the same time in a dynasty, not so much as
Yeah.
Devontae Parker. I mean, Dolphins are going to be the Dolphins no matter
Yeah.
what. But Henry
So
Ruggs, I mean, he has a decent
yeah.
quarterback throwing to him.
So that lends it right into my next start and sit, and I will actually pose the same question to both you, Josh, and everyone watching live with us here. Either one of the quarterbacks I'm about to name, would you keep them in a dynasty setting? Would you look to target them or trade them away? What are your thoughts throughout the dynasty realm about these two quarterbacks? For me, I'm going to be sitting Cam Newton this week, playing a tougher Buffalo Bills defense. Not saying that I believe he's going to have an awful week, but I believe it's going to be subpar compared to the play at quarterback we've been seeing, enough to ride the bench this week, especially if you're playing in a super flex league where you have an extra buy there or another position there to fill. To be wary of that because again, you can have guys like an AJ Green or not an sorry AJ Brown that's averaging 19 points compared to Cam, which you're seeing negative points for on the other side. So even in that setting, I'm still sitting. And on the flip side, I'm going to start Teddy Bridgewater in a favorable matchup this week, coming into his own. He has DJ Moore starting to show out, Robbie Anderson showing out, just everything really clicking for him. Had
Curtis
turnover
Samuel.
Yeah, he had turnover issues earlier in the season, and there's still a few, far and few, for him to happen. But I believe most of them moving forward, he's has corrected and learned from. So for me, Bridgewater's my guy to start.
Yeah, so between both of them, they're both pretty up there in age, like late 20s, I think. I don't know if either of them has entered in their 30s yet.
I believe Cam's is in his 30s.
Okay, so biggest differences between them as far as Cam, I honestly, not any disrespect towards Cam, but New England's offense as a whole, fantasy wise, as of right now, I would steer clear of them. until they can get a true number one in New England, or Belichick can efficiently use Cam's legs, I wouldn't trust anybody on that offense. Now, Bridgewater, on the other hand, um, he has Robbie Anderson, he has DJ Moore, he has two solid receivers there. And then also, once he gets him back, he has a solid uh, running back in Christian McCaffrey, which, as a lot of people know, Bridgewater came from the Saints. And I'm sorry, not Bridgewater. Kamara and Christian McCaffrey have a pretty similar play style if you think about it. You can hand the ball off to them and they can do what they need to do, and then you can also throw to them from the backfield, which is what they're both pretty much known for, is how they can receive out of the backfield. So as far as Cam, he's up there in age. In a dynasty, I wouldn't really go out and get him. I mean, if you're stuck with him, I would try and trade him while he has some type of little value left. But somebody like Bridgewater, I mean, he might be struggling now, but I could see him being their guy for the future years.
Right. Who do you got as your second?
My second one.
Did you have another start sit, or did we already go through that?
We already went through that. I have
Oh.
my pickup.
Yeah, who are you picking up? Yeah, who are you picking up?
Oh boy, we all know I'm good for that. I made my reputation as a good pickup guy with my pick for Boston Scott last week, putting up, I think, like 19 points he put up. So this week, I'm going to use my mythical powers. I'm going to say pick up Carlos Hyde. Chris Carson is out, like you guys heard earlier, with an injury, to which I can't remember what that injury is. So, you have Chris Carson. They knew Carlos Hyde was a reliable backup, or else he wouldn't have been signed. And with Carlos Hyde being a reliable backup and them knowing it, I think that they don't really change up the play style that they have with Chris Carson being down. I mean, they were handing the ball off to him. They threw to him out of the backfield. And as we all know, in PPR leagues, that's gold for a running back. And with Hyde being a decent backup, it's going to be the same. I feel like it's going to be the same situation with Mike Davis, or Jamal Williams. Starter goes down and the backup comes in and they do what they're paid to do.
Before I give my ad for the week, Damien answers the question and says that he has traded away Cam before last week's game. He got Robinson and Drew Lock in return. He says Bridgewater, he thinks, has enough weapons that if you need a quarterback and a super flex, that I would be okay on buying in on him. Yeah, we're right there with you. I think that as unless you have big weapons elsewhere, unless you have Kamara and say Saquon or CMC, and you're heavy everywhere else, and you could take lesser points at quarterback week in and week out, then he is more of a super flex option, which I am okay going out and getting him in that aspect. But I agree with you through and through. I don't think Cam. I think Cam will be on most benches or in deeper leagues, in leagues that aren't as deep bench wise. Probably will be a free agent and be able to be picked up off of waivers.
Yeah.
And as far as a waiver ad for me this week, I'm going to look to add Giovanni Bernard, as Mixon is down and out with an injury. Showed some life, giving his rookie quarterback a little bit of an option out of the backfield. So definitely a high buy-in week to week until Mixon comes back.
Honestly, I think that the matchup that the Bengals had last week, I think that was a complete shootout. A game between two young quarterbacks, divisional game. Just the highlights that I saw from it were pretty decent.
You figure with them two in the division, with Lamar and Big Ben aging out, that could be the look for years to come, as long as they play both like they did last week.
Yeah. All right,
All right.
time to go to my embarrassment here.
And by embarrassment, we
Break
move
out the
into the
broom, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep, exactly. We move into our top dog segment, which we do every week, brought to you by Nature Coast Tailgating, our World Championship sponsor. Just a reminder to everybody that is watching and listening in. Each week, me and my average brother, Josh, are going to try to predict, and project who we believe in the following week or the upcoming week is going to be the highest scorer. We are going to both pick a quarterback and a flex being everything that's not a quarterback. And then if my chosen player outscores Josh, I will get 1 point. And then if I do happen to pick the top dog for any given week, I will get a bonus point of 2 for that week. Currently, I am winning 6-4 throughout our projections and predictions because of this past week, taking both spots at quarterback and at flex with a clean sweep. Josh had taken Patrick Mahomes, who had 11 points, and Aaron Jones, who did not play, so he had a goose egg. Josh Allen, my selection, had 17.3 points, and then Robbie Anderson having 12.4. So, with that being said, Josh, who were our top dogs? Who were the highest scores that we had?
Quarterback wise, it was. I didn't even have this written down. I'm thinking off the top of my head here. Quarterback wise, it was Kyler Murray, and
Yes.
flex wise, we all know who it was. Mr. 51 himself. It was Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, absolutely putting up or ruining my night as I had a 50-point lead wiped away by Lockett's 51-point game. So, congratulations to him and the Sin City Kitties.
And the cherry on top with Russell Wilson putting up 30-something points.
Yeah. Who are you taking this week?
So, as we both know before the show, I was kind of bouncing back and forth here with my initial pick being stolen. And then I was going to go with Herbert, but seeing what Patrick Mahomes did in Denver, I strayed away from that. So this week, I'm going to come out of left field here. Oh, my goodness.
Go ahead, bud.
I'm just – no,
I'm not giving him –
I'm not giving him that satisfaction. In flex, I'm going to go Derrick Henry. I'm not telling you my quarterback.
So Josh is just like Damian taking Wentz at quarterback.
It's the obvious pick here. It's like I said 3 times I've said it tonight. Dallas's defense is like non-existent. You're better off putting a peewee football team out there.
That's what the Eagles have. They're so injured. That's what it is.
No, it's just their receivers.
And they're running backs.
They're going to start calling up high school players. Well, they're running backs though. Like they have Boston Scott. They have a rookie there who's been showing glimpses of hope.
I mean, that's what I said earlier. The Eagles scout team is rolling up to Wawa's all over the Northeast right now, saying, "Think fast, throwing the football out the door, and if you catch it, you're good to go. But hop on in. You start.
You got yourself a 1-year contract.
Okay, go pick out a number. We'll get you a helmet."
Hey,
Damien says that defense is hot garbage.
No, it's not even hot.
Question for you, Damien. Whose defense is worse, the Jets or the Cowboys?
I think the Jets' problem is just their offense. I mean, I don't know. I haven't watched any Jets games. Sorry, Brian.
For me, my top dog for this week is going to be the great one, Tom Brady. Showing that he can absolutely ball still, putting up over 40 points once again. And then at the flex position. Coming off of his bye is Justin Jefferson, who I believe is going to be right back into the swing of things. Hopefully, unlike the last time I took him, Thielen doesn't steal his thunder, and then he have the top dog game. But Jefferson is my pick, and Damien answers the question and says the Cowboys have a worse defense than the Jets. That's a surprise. I
It's
didn't know
and
you could be worse than the Jets.
it's not even like they're stricken by injuries. I mean, they had problems in the linebacker position, but Van Der Esch came back this week. Um, as far I think they just traded away one of their defensive linemen today.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. What was I about to say? Oh, Tom Brady. I'm actually excited for Week 9, believe it or not, because I don't know if you've been keeping up on Tom Brady's stats, but currently they are tied. The great ones are tied for career touchdowns, and I think Week 9 is
Really?
going to be yes, the 588.
And or what is he's got the record, right? Or are they
Who
trying to go for it? Breeze.
they no yeah Breeze has it.
Yeah,
Well
Breeze
they
has
both
it,
have
and
it now. They
yeah,
both
Breeze
have it
has it,
now.
and it's trying to extend it, and
They
he's trying to break it.
Week 9, I believe, is going to be the decider. I feel like it's going to be winner takes all, and then everything after that, it's just going to be the winner running away with it.
I didn't realize that he had gotten that close. I knew that
Yeah,
they were close. I didn't realize he caught him.
no, yeah, he caught them. They were tied. Uh, hey, I mean, if Brady takes touchdowns, by all means, Breeze still has yards, and Breeze does plan on breaking 80,000, being the first quarterback to do it,
Yeah.
which I'm excited to witness.
Hey, I just want to remind everybody before we come back here next Tuesday, and you can check in to see if Brady does break the record this week or does it in week 9 against the Saints, and check out our other top dog predictions. See how we did. You can check out the Fanatically Real broadcast with myself and Brian on the flagship tomorrow at 8:30 live on both Facebook and YouTube. And then the Empty Wagon guys, Brad, Eric, and Josh, Saturday night at midnight. And then they will be putting out their podcast on Anchor if you don't get to see them live at midnight on the East Coast time. They will be putting out a second broadcast, a preview of it will be a recap at that point of Week 8 on Monday at midnight, and then later in the day putting it out on podcast form. And if you do need a reminders for any of those or any of our show times, check out all of our social medias. We will be posting it on there as well as on our website, fsa-fr.com. And in addition to that, guys, I just wanted to take a second to thank Brian as well for all that he does. A lot of great things here within FSA, new leagues coming. Check out our website, get all of your team's merch there, our show merch as well. Um, all of your fantasy news and updates, anything that you could need as far as league information as well, will all be right there. On the new website. And anything else from you, Josh?
Uh, Make sure you guys actually start at 8:30 tomorrow night. I I saw the beginning of last week's show.
Yes, 8:30. I have to write that down and give myself a reminder. Before we head out, I do want to thank all of our sponsors. We have the QB54 Arm and Leg League sponsor, Football Darts, our broadcast sponsor, Nature Coast Tailgating, our World Championship sponsor, and then we have all of our other bowl game sponsors: the Cranky Veteran Candle Company, Finger Lake Mercantile, Southern Siren Sugar Scrub, Deep South Creations, and of course the Recast, who are the official music of the FSA. Guys, once again, thank you for checking us out. Like, subscribe on all of our platforms. We will be back, and have a great night.